Hi, I'm Raphael Heath, the Head of Geography at the Royal High School, Bath. And I'm going to be talking to you in this tutorial about the Ashcloud Apocalypse event, how you can take part and what it involves. So this is our website, and we'll put a click on direct link here to the web app that I've created. This is the web app, so if you've got to this, you're in the right place to take part during the week of Surrounding GIS Day 2015. It starts off with a little bit of a video here explaining the event, promoting the event. It's playing now, telling you a little bit about what it's all about. We're basically crowdsourcing some information from across the world to try and see what would happen if a mega volcano erupted, and to work out the risks to the areas that the people participating live in all around the world. You'll see there's different tabs along this app at the top here. When you go to the second one, it brings up a couple of videos, one about mega volcanic eruptions, another one here about GIS and the use of it around the world to solve various problems using geographical skills. The third tab here then is the important one. So this is one, give it a little bit of time to open if it's taking a while to load for you. I've got this open already, and you'll see it contains a form here, and your task is to fill out the different parts of this form. You're going to be looking at different maps, and for each one to work out the risk to your local area for different variables if a mega volcano erupted. So the first one here says distance from a mega volcano, and you need to enter a score here from 1 to 4. 1 to 5. 1 would be if you live near a mega volcano, so obviously the impacts would be much greater, and 5 if you live far away. So you fill out the form. It says use page 4 or tab 4 on this app to find information. So you go to tab 4 here. It will show you the mega volcanoes that exist around the world. You can see Toba over here, Campo Flegrei in Europe, and so on. And the idea for any of these maps is to zoom to your local area. You can use place names and postcodes to do this, so I'm using the school postcode for our school, and when you zoom in you can see it's gone quite yellow around here, and you can just about beneath it see a map with our school location. If I was to click on the map, it will tell me that my distance from a mega volcano is up to 3,000 kilometers away. If I look at the scoring here, I can see that if I was very near, less than 150 kilometers away, I would give myself a score of 5, but I'm between 1,501 and 3,000 kilometers away, so I'm going to give myself a score of 2 in this area. If I just zoom out, you can get a better picture of what's going on again. So here we go. So you can see this is the nearest volcano to me was Campo Flegrei, and zoom back in a little bit, and that's where I was. And if I lived very nearby here, I'd be in a high danger zone, but I lived around here in this yellow zone. If I lived further away, I'd be in the light green zone, which would be greater than 3,000 kilometers away, so only a score of 1. So I go back to tab 3 where it has the form, and the distance for me from a mega volcano was between 1,500 and 3,000 kilometers, but I enter a score here of 2. I go back to tab 4 and show you again. So score 2 here shows I'm at low risk, living quite a reasonable distance from my nearest mega volcano. So direct impacts of ash and lava and so on are going to be quite minimal where I live. Okay, so I've given that a score of 2. Then height of land score. It says go to page tab 5. Score between 1 for lowland and 5 for highland. So if I look at the map here, I've got a world map. Anywhere in the world I can zoom to, and it's best just to type in postcodes, but as I show you, if I click on the map here, it tells me how high I am. So if I was at this point, it would be 1,369 meters high. So if I go again to where I live, Bath, my school postcode, as I say, just use postcodes for this, and if I click on the map, it would, then brings up quite detailed information of the height of the land, and then I click on it to bring up the actual relief or the height of the land. There we go, it's coming up now, 151 meters or so on. So I would look this up against this scale here, depending on how high I am. If this was where I want, 151 meters above sea level, then I would be on this one, up between 100 and 200 height above sea level. The idea is that the mega volcano could cause a cooling effect, and the higher land would be colder than lower land. So I'm going to give myself a score of 3 for this one in the area I live. Height of land score is 3. And so I go on. Climate score, I have to go to page 6 for this. If I live in a colder area, then it would be more severe if it got even colder. If I live in quite a hot area, perhaps around here in the tropics, for example, then it would be less significant. If I lived at 30 degrees already, then a couple of degrees less in temperature perhaps is a more minor effect than if I'm somewhere quite cold already. So again, I look at my home area, I'd zoom into this map, and I can see here anyway that I'm within 10 degrees, so I'll stay zooming in on this occasion, but you would just go to this postcode or zip code finder. I live between 10 and 14 degrees average temperature throughout the year, so I'm going to give myself a score of 3 on this one as well. Go back to tab 3, and climate score is 3. Go down on this. Other variables I'm going to be looking at: population density. So let's go to tab 7. So tab 7 here is population density. Again, I zoom to my home location. I'd go specifically to the exact area I live. Let's say I live in this square. I'm doing it for my school, and it gives me a value for my population density for these very small squares, about 250 meters squared, and it tells me that there's 275 people living in that square, compared to another square over here where it's slightly less, 59 people, and so on. So I use this scale here to do that. So let's say I had 259 people. Let's say I lived in a very crowded area, quite crowded area. I'd give myself a score of 4, as you can see here. So you just read off the number it brings up. This is 287, for example, here. You'll notice there are a few squares that are blank here. It says no data. If you live in a square with no data, it either means that there are under 25 people, so you give yourself a score of 1. If you think it's incorrect, perhaps this one has no data, but you think maybe has more people in it, then perhaps just go to the nearest square next to it you think is very similar to your square where you live, and use that data instead. 197 there, if I think that perhaps is an error, as this is a sort of computer generated map. It's very detailed, but it does have a few gaps on it. So I'm going to go for this score of 4 for my particular area. Population density score 4, sorry. Level of wealth. I have to go to map 8, tab 8 here. In these maps you can see that you've got different colour scorings on the maps for the level of wealth. Rich areas will be able to cope better with the shocks that might cause to energy prices, food prices and so on from an Ashcloud apocalypse, and poor areas less well perhaps. So if you click on any area, it will tell you some information about it and the wealth and so on. You're basically going on the colour scheme, but if you click on your area you can see some data on it. So if I go to Bath, for example, sorry about that, you can see it brings up the Bath data. You can zoom to any location in the world. If I put New York, that's here, and you get the same sort of colour schemes and same data being provided for you. The amount of data will vary across the world. Some places have a lot more data, much more detail than others, but you can see here this area's got $59,000. Let's put in France. Some areas we've got much less detailed information for, so some of the European areas we've got kind of regional data. Some areas you've only got countrywide data for, so if I zoom out a little bit, we'll see this map updating. Some areas I've only got national average data, and some areas I've got more detailed data. Somewhere like this, for example, in Ethiopia, I've only got the national average data rather than regional data. You can see some of these countries are blank. When they're blank, you need to zoom in a little bit further to get more detailed information. So basically just use the normal zoom function and read the data off for that area. Red colours are areas of low wealth, orange quite low wealth, medium incomes are in yellow, low incomes for your region are in, wealthy incomes for your areas region are in green, and if you're in a very wealthy area for your region, then you are in blue colours. So in the area Bath, we'll go again, that I live, there's some variations in wealth. Let's say I live in this area where our school is, so I'm in the green zone, so I will go to put in a score of 2, as you can see. So if I go back to tab 3, always going back to tab 3 for the form, I can put my wealth score as 3. We've then got a traffic chaos score. This is in tab 9. This shows you live traffic data around the world, and let's go to a London address. Okay, just put in a random address in London. You can see here that whenever you zoom to a part of the world or click on a part of the world, if you need to zoom manually, it brings up a grey shaded circle, and you look at that grey shaded circle, it shows you live traffic data. Now while this is live traffic data, we're kind of imagining that an Ashcloud Apocalypse event has happened, a volcanic eruption has happened, and if you were looking at this data at that time, it would show you if there was traffic disruption, if there was ash fallout, ice perhaps on the road and things like that, then you might experience traffic disruption. So in this area you can see it's flowing quite freely, greens and oranges mainly. So I look it up here, and if it's this one is yellow and orange lines mostly, I would pick this one for the traffic score for this area. You've got to sort of judge it a little bit by eye, this one. If it's got a lot of serious delays, you can see some up here, red lines, so I would give it a lower score of 3. Let's go to another area, perhaps more in central London, see how it's doing. Over here, so if you look here, you can see much more delays here, much more red lines, so dominated by red and yellow lines, and also there's some circles, which mean they're critical incidents in these areas, accidents and delays, and so I would judge that. Again, if I've got one critical incident, I give it a score of 4. In this area you can see there's several circles, so several traffic incidents, I would give it a score of 5. So that's how you're sort of judging it against this scale. The area I lived in was in Bath. Let's go back there, and again you'd pick your specific postcode area, but you can see this is dominated by oranges and yellows at the moment, so I'm going to give it a score of 2. So back to tab 6. Tab 3, sorry, and factor 6, traffic chaos, score of 2. Ill health score, these are in tab 9, tab 10 explained. So we're asking people to comment on whether they suffer from asthma or not, so that we can get a sense of people that might be disrupted by any air pollution incidents that result from the ash dispersion around the world. So if you experience regular asthma, you give yourself a score of 5, mild or infrequent, a score of 3, or never experience asthma, a 1. So let's say I experience a mild or infrequent asthma, I'm going to give it a score of 3, so let's say I do that. Community spirit score is in tab 11. We're asking people to judge subjectively your own opinion on your community spirit, how well you know people around you, neighbours, because they will be able to pull together perhaps an emergency and help each other out if they know each other well, or not if you don't know your neighbours so well. So we're sort of looking at that. So if you have what you would describe as poor community spirit, by this description, we don't sort of know people in your street or nearby or trust them very much, give them yourself a score of 5 for your area. And 1, great community spirit, everyone knows each other on the street very well, and you help each other out kind of regularly anyway, so you'll be able to cope well in this disaster event. So let's say I think it's reasonable in my area, I would give it a 3, let's say. So I'm going to put a 3 in for the moment. And final one, emergency hubs. If I go to tab 12 here, this brings up another map. Be patient while it loads first time. Let's put in an address. Again, a sort of a London one perhaps, and zoom it in here. So what this brings up is a 50-kilometre shaded circle around your area, and emergency hubs where you can get support set up by the United Nations and your government in airfields, both used and disused airfields around the world, so you can go to anywhere in the world, find these locations out, and you're interested only in the one that's nearest to you. So I'll bring this one up again. We can see that in this area, in this grey circle within 50 kilometres, I can see I've got quite a few emergency hubs, but which ones can I get to? Potentially if roads are blocked and it's icy conditions perhaps, and the petrol prices are high, I might need to walk there in this scenario. So we're going to see how close my nearest one is. You can see my nearest one is this one, to this particular location. If I clicked over here, you can see it changes again and provides the new calculations to my nearest emergency locations. It's just having a little think about them at the moment to bring them up. But you can see my nearest one is this one over here. Let's just do that again. There we go. Okay, and you can see this one is 10 kilometres away. So A little bit delayed there thinking. Doing a bit of thinking. There we go. Okay, so this location. So just put in your postcode, it will do all the calculations for you. Bring up a circle. You can see this one is 12 kilometres away to my nearest emergency centre to me. It tells me a little bit of information about it if I zoom in and click on it. So it's just this number that's interested, 12 kilometres away. So I look it up over here, see how close I am. If I'm 12 kilometres from emergency centre, it's going to be quite hard work to get there by foot on a emergency basis, so I'm going to give myself a score of 5 in that case. But should I have lived perhaps much closer to it, let's say here I was only 2 kilometres away, then I would give myself a much lower score here, risk score. So let's say I was in the first instance 12 kilometres away, or let's go back to a Bath location and zoom into my home address and so on. I'd find here I was 9 kilometres away. Okay, so I'm still a score of 5, so I go back to tab 3 and it's going to be a high risk score, living quite far away, score of 5. Okay, so that's all the data you need to input. The last thing you can do is do a calculation of your overall risks. This is where you have to go through your numbers and add them up, 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 2 and so on. Your total score would be up to 45, because there's 9 factors here with a score of 5 each. So you add them all up manually and to the overall calculated score here. Just for speed I'm going to do it manually, but let's say it was around 29, let's say. And final things you need to do at the end here is so I'll just put in a school postcode. Okay, sorry, it's BA1. 507, that's in Bristol. So it's located me. You're going to do it for your home address, but I'm just going to do it for the school, for example. You zoom in, make sure that you put in a postcode to find your location. You can place the dot and move it as you need. So I'm going to place it over here so you can see the effect of that. And at the very end, when you're happy with it, it's got all the data, you've got the right position and location for the data, you say submit entry. It'll then say your entry's been submitted, and that's all you need to do. The final thing you can do at the end is have a look at the data on this particular map at the end, and all the data has been put in and inputted. You may need to refresh it if you've just put in your data and this map's already loaded, so you may just need to refresh it to see your data. But all the other data put in from around the world is here, from all the other students who are participating in this event, and you can see the information inputted here for all the different variables and the total scores and so on. And when everyone participates, you'll see a world map of this, so you can see variations in the risk to an Ashcloud Apocalypse event. So that's how you input data into this. This is how the app's set up. I should just say that it works very well on a computer. I've tested it on Apple devices, on Macs, on normal PC devices, but on a tablet I found that it doesn't work very well with Safari or Chrome browsers on tablets, as it's a bit data heavy on the processing, but it does work on a Puffin browser, which is freely available and downloadable. So I would suggest you can do a paid or a free version of Puffin browsing, but I would suggest you, perhaps if you haven't got it already, use the free version, and it works perfectly well on that. Not quite as well as a PC, but it does work, so if you need to use a tablet device for it. So my name's Raphael Heath, and I hope you have fun taking part in this event and learning a little bit about GIS and mapping processes, and a little about volcanoes and risk mapping procedures, and that you enjoy participating in this and being part of a large sort of global event with geographers around the world, students around the world, cooperating, collaborating, and putting in information and looking at spatial patterns and how things vary. Okay, thanks very much for watching this, and I hope you enjoy taking part.